Ladies and gentlemen, educators, leaders, welcome to Leader Chat. My name is Jeff Rose, and today is a very unique Leader Chat. It's special because we don't have one guest, we have many guests. Let me be clear. You have likely heard me talk about a recent leadership event, a summit that we had here at our campus. The topic of conversation was navigating turbulence, and we invited system leaders. Often superintendents, but sometimes CEOs, because we didn't just have public education systems. We had charter systems, we had independent schools. The goal was to invite leaders with a team member, the team member for the most part being somebody from their board, someone from their governance team. And the concept was navigating turbulence, which, as you can imagine, is extremely relevant. We had incredible leaders here, and what we got to witness was leaders helping leaders with this relevant topic of how to navigate during very unprecedented times. And I know we often say that, but for those leading in school systems, you know exactly what I mean, because we are living through exactly that kind of a time. Now, there are three specific people that we are going to hear from today. The first is Walter Gonsolin. Walter is the superintendent of Jefferson County Schools. And by the way, he is currently a finalist, I believe, just one of four up for the Superintendent of the Year throughout the country. He is Superintendent of the Year in Alabama this year. Now, I will tell you that what you're going to hear from is Walter talking about the importance of learning shoulder to shoulder with his board member, because what it does for them is it creates a framework of learning and how to lead as a unit. He's very clear that while he is the superintendent and he has, of course, a school board, they have to work together, and especially during trying and turbulent times. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy Walter. Walter, hey, thank you so much for this opportunity for us to be able to kind of, pick your brain a little bit.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jeff. It's my pleasure to be here.
So here we are at our leadership summit, right? We're focused on, navigating turbulence and controversy, which of course is something that you are either an expert on or are working to be an expert on just because of your role. But before we get into advice or thoughts that you have from a leadership perspective, maybe tell the audience your bio that I'm not going to read. Right, you do what you do, but how did you get there? Give us, kind of a narrative of, kind of your career.
Yeah. Well, first, I've been in education over 30 years. Well, as a matter of fact, 35 years. I'm in the middle of my 35th year right now. Started out as a sixth grade teacher and went all the way from assistant principal to principal, all of those different titles, all the way up and now superintendent for the second time. I come from a place called New Iberia, Louisiana, born and raised in Cajun country, Cajun Creole country. And I'm one of 6 children, the eldest of, and I have 5 sisters. And so I tell you, 5 sisters, man. So you want to know where I learned my leadership skills? That's where it started.
At home.
At home, right? And so did college in Louisiana and also in Mississippi with my terminal degree. And all of those experiences led me to where I am today. And it made me who I am, even from a small child. Just the value that my parents and grandparents had for education and how they insisted that it was something that I achieved.
I know you won't mention this, so I will.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right. So I'm gonna have you talk about this, but you're one of 4 finalists, I believe, at this point in time, right, for
That's
the National
correct.
Superintendent of the Year, serving as the Superintendent of the Year in Alabama.
That's correct.
So, obviously, it probably feels kind of odd to talk about, but let's at least embrace the moment. And what is that like, and what are you learning just through that process?
Well, first of all, it is a great honor to be recognized as one of the top 4 superintendents in the country. And it's a great honor for the people that I serve and that I serve with, faculty and staff that I work with. I always say this is for all of us, to be recognized. And then, as I mentioned about my family and my hometown, it's a great honor for them as well. And to know someone, to have interacted, to live with, to be friends with a person that now the nation is being recognized nationally, it's prideful.
Yeah.
And brings a lot of pride to the table. And so I can say that I'm humbled by that experience. And the process has been very daunting, very, to say the least.
Yeah.
When I was named the superintendent of the year for the state of Alabama, they said, well, you have to now apply and put an application in for the national superintendent of the year. And I said, okay, all right. When is that due? And they said, well, in 2 weeks. I said, 2 weeks. I said, okay, all right. And said, when can I start?
Yeah.
Well, we had 12 days to do it. And so just like everything else, my team and I, we got together and we reported on the work that we were doing. And which is fun, but we got it all in 12 days. And then, once I was named as one of the finalists, last week, we were in Alexandria, Virginia, and we had myself, I competed against the other 3 candidates. We won't know anything until March the 6th, so that's a long time. You got to almost forget that you're in the competition. But we interviewed, we did individual interviews, and again, just talking about the work that we've done. And it is nice to be able to have people appreciate the work that you're doing for the people that you're doing it for. So
That's great.
It's been a great journey.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, in the meantime, here we are. You've gone from, of course, applying based upon, just doing great work from a leadership perspective. And here you are learning as a leader, shoulder to shoulder with other leaders throughout the country in this very eclectic and diverse group of leaders. And you have your board member with you.
That's correct.
Right? So maybe walk us through the importance of you and the board, your governance, being shoulder to shoulder amidst controversy that's going to find you, whether you are looking for it or not.
Yeah.
And the importance of that.
It's very important. And it's important not only because of conflict and the turbulence that's going on, but it's important for us to establish a framework of a learning environment that works for the people that we're serving. And we're doing it together. It's not the superintendent coming up with the strategic plan or coming up with all of the ideas that we're going to implement. It's not the board members doing it in isolation, but it's walking side by side, looking at the same data, talking to the same people, that we can then make decisions that reminds us every day of what we're supposed to do for the people that we're serving. And so therefore, when conflict, and it will arise, right? Whether it's national or whether it's local, we always have something to fall back on and to not take it personal, but to something that reminds us this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is our work, and this is who it's for. And when you keep that as the focal point, then you can get things done.
Have you learned over time, and of course, obviously still learning or else you wouldn't be here, have you learned over time strategies from a leadership perspective on how to not just navigate, but almost thrive in a controversial situation? Because, controversy does create opportunity if navigated gracefully and well. So it's probably difficult to describe, oh, yes, here's my set of tools on how I, attack controversy. But is there a basic mentality or framework that you just kind of have or carry with you? Because it comes your way whether you're asking for it or not.
That's right. And it comes your way very often, whether you're asking for it or not. And, the framework, I can say the genesis of the framework is that we have to begin to listen to people so that, especially the ones that you're going to be serving, you have to have your thumb on the pulse of that community and know what's important to them, who's important to them, and how the work that you're going to do is connected to that. Because, that's probably where your controversy and your conflict is going to come from. And so then when that occurs, then what's the relationship between you and the people that's bringing it to the table? I tell the people that we serve, the faculty and staff, the community as well, that, it's okay to disagree with us. It really is. But now how we disagree, now that's important.
Yeah.
I have to, and I'm learning this even more. But if you have a situation that's important to you, as a school system, as a leader, I have to have a door or an avenue in which you can express that. And that you can not only express it, but you can know that I see it as valuable. In the end, we still might not agree with you. We might agree with you.
Sure.
But we've listened to you. We've made you a part of the conversation. And then therefore we could tell you why or why not that we're going to go this particular direction or we won't go this particular direction. Because in the end, the mission, the vision, the ethics of the organization, that's what we're all striving for, and how to serve the people.
Indeed. And as you know, and our listeners are sick of hearing me say this, but we believe circles are better than rows. Mm-hmm. And our focus is to get great leaders like yourselves at the table with other leaders so they can help one another.
Yes.
Right? This is content that we do provide, but in the meantime, I really we push this active learning of leaders and promote them to be vulnerable. How has this been, right? Getting together as we're talking about the topic is controversy. Yeah. So working shoulder to shoulder with other leaders and the skill sets and strategies, what has that been like for you as well as your board member who's with you?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question because my board member and I, we had a conversation, after the first sessions in that evening. And it is amazing that when you're around these other leaders from different parts of the country, that the things that they're dealing with, have to navigate through, you're like, oh my goodness, I never thought about that. We don't have, and it made me think one time, I'm staying in the state of Alabama. I'm not leaving the state of Alabama. Some states I'm not going. Right?
Sweet home Alabama, right?
Sweet home Alabama, man. But to see and to hear how they're navigating through that, the strategies that they're using, even some things that we don't have to deal with that's not relevant to us, I'm learning some strategies that I can use at home with me that I would say, now this would be great. Like, for example, earlier today, they were talking about student representation on the school board. And that was a concept that was foreign to me. Mm-hmm. And I asked the question, do you mean that they have a voice? And they say, no, they have a position at the table.
Yeah.
So I was like, that is very interesting. So that's one of the things that I'm going to take back to the district and share with them to say, what do you think about this? Because I have a student advisory from 4th grade all the way up to 12th grade.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay, so I would ask this of you, whether you are a National Superintendent of the Year finalist or not, and I would ask you this because I respect you and I'm so appreciative that you're part of this process.
Yes, sir.
As we have, as you know, lots of new leaders coming to the table. Mm-hmm. Some of them are prepared, some of them are not.
Right.
It doesn't matter. They're in the seat. After one who has demonstrated and experienced success from a leadership standpoint, what would be your, literally in 30 seconds or less, what's your advice for them? If you were going to have your drop the mic moment, what would you say?
For the reason that I'm here today, continuous learning, it doesn't matter if you feel that you're prepared or not. That you should always remember that we're in a position, we're in a seat that we have to continually learn to our craft so that we can become better at it. And always, and I know we hear this a lot, that, the children are first, but really they are.
Yeah.
The children really are first. And so with passion, with empathy, you perform the job and always put them first and stay in the seat. Stay in the seat and do the work.
I appreciate that you said stay in the seat because, as you know, it's become slippery and there's a lot of people sliding off.
Right.
And so thank you. And know, Walter, that we appreciate, on behalf of course, your community, who I know is proud, and your state, but also for just being a member of our leadership circle, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being willing to get help and to give it.
Yes, sir.
I think that sends a powerful message for a person in your position.
Well, and thank you and this organization for providing that avenue to allow me to stay in the seat so I can continue to learn, to get better, get a broader perspective, and to be a better leader for the people that I'm serving.
All right. Well, keep fighting the good fight.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to hear from Cynthia Wright. Cynthia is the school board chair of the Medford School District, which is in Oregon. And beyond Cynthia being very reflective, open, and honest, and clearly a leader and a learner, what you're going to hear Cynthia talk about very openly is how she describes her leadership mistakes from the past. And then, of course, what she has learned, and more importantly, what she is learning now as it relates to doing things differently because of what she has gleaned from others. Enjoy. Cynthia, welcome this morning.
Thank you.
We're here on our second day of our leadership summit. You, as the board chair, are here with your superintendent, kind of learning side by side, and at times split up.
Yeah.
Right? Intentionally. But before we get into your advice for other board members throughout the country and beyond, as well as superintendents, actually, I'm not going to read your bio. So just give us some information about yourself so our listeners know who we're talking to.
Okay, sure. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I raised 6 children. I have 24 grandchildren. And This is my 12th year of being a board member. I became a board member when my children were all in school. I had children in elementary, middle, and high school. And I was concerned about things that were going on, and I decided I needed to be a part of the solution. So I got on the board. But after that first term, things didn't change very much. It was a frustrating time for me. I decided to get off. And then later in 2016, my kids were gone, and I was asked to run again, and it was different leadership that was more open to change. And so I felt like there was a motivation for me because I really care about kids and want to advocate for them. And I'm a lifetime learner. I love learning. And so, yeah, that's me.
Did you know originally when you got on the board, the first time you stepped on, did you know what you were getting into?
No idea.
So to talk to us about the realization of once you got in the seat and then you realized I didn't understand. Tell us about that learning.
Well, one of the things that I learned right away is that I came just kind of frustrated about some things and more trying to not as inclusive, as more like this is what I need to try to fix. But what I learned is that over the years, I have learned that having diversity at the table and difference in thought and listening to each other actually allows you to make a better decision. It's such a powerful thing when you really believe that at your core. And then it's not as divisive. You can just hear the differences in people's opinion and how they approach things, and you come to a better place. And that first 4 years, I didn't really do that. I didn't understand that then. Now I do. And so it's a lot easier to get to a place where everybody feels like they can vote for something, even though it's not maybe exactly what they wanted, because they were heard and respected. We can unanimously vote on something and move forward, which is so much more powerful. And I didn't understand all that when I first got on.
You're here with your superintendent, Brett. Very, very thoughtful leader. I've really appreciated the opportunity to get to know him. You two being here together, can you talk to us about what you're learning as it relates to why that's important?
Yeah. So I was the board chair when we hired Brett.
Okay.
And he was very transparent. And we worked, we went through COVID together. We've been through some really tough times. And he has always been very transparent and very focused on always putting kids first. And so we developed a relationship of trust. And he can trust me and I can trust him. And we face the challenges together, and it makes all the difference in the world because of that relationship of trust that we have. And so when we got this opportunity, we're like, yeah, let's do this because we can learn together how we can make things better for kids. It's huge.
Early, we started yesterday talking about the fact that there is professional development often for educators or leaders on the management side as well as the instructional leadership side. But the bulk of the work, what I call the third leg of the leadership stool, sometimes there's a lack of learning opportunities. And our goal is to help leaders help each other, right? And create a strategy for that. So as you're here learning shoulder to shoulder with other leaders, superintendents, CEOs, board members, what is that experience like for you?
It has been incredible, Jeff. Just so you know. So we've been through some really difficult times, and I've sought help from our local OSBA, from people that are supposed to be training us, and all the training. I love how AJ Crable puts it in his book, and I can't remember if it was in the leader chat or the book, but he's like, we get trained on how to not break the law. That's it. That's what we get. Because the way that he said it was so perfect. Yep, that's really all I get. And then I came here, or I started listening to it. Before I even came here, I had totally rewritten my script for my board meetings because it was like ideas were opened up to me of other ways of approaching the problem or seeing it, like a complete paradigm shift, which was huge for me because I was looking for it. I was seeking for it, but I wasn't getting it. And here, from listening to some of the other leaders and how they've approached problems has been really helpful. And especially Brett and I being able to then get together after the day and go, what did you think about that? Or what did you think, here's something that I gained. Like, what if we expanded this way? It's been really helpful for us to see that there are other ways, there are solutions, because I was feeling trapped. Like, there is no way out. There are no solutions to the problem that I have. And it's really frustrating because I want to solve the problem. And I feel the burden of it because I'm the board chair.
Yes. In fact, the board responsibilities are immense and different than what people often sign up for or run for, and then find themselves in the position of how to navigate what my role and responsibility is while problems and controversy are being launched at you. Faster than you can imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So from our perspective, we're always trying to think about how the ecosystem needed for leaders to learn and trying to do some maybe even reinvention of that to a degree to where we are trying to help leaders. Let's just use Brett as an example. Carve out time and capacity to focus on themselves and their own development so that they can be more effective on the job, if that makes sense. From a board leadership perspective, talk to us about maybe the importance of that, or maybe how you're seeing the importance of that.
I think it's critical. Because you don't know what you don't know until you're put in a position that you are completely unprepared for. And because you haven't received the training that you needed to handle those situations, then you have to, there has to be an environment for you to be able to learn from others if it's not provided for you in any other way. So it's like if I'm facing now as a board chair, because I've had to hire a lot of superintendents during my time, I know more to look for. When you were talking about, politically, business-wise, all these different things, we have some great educators out there, but I know I need to look for some other things too, or provide a way for someone who's really great at education to get some instruction and help and guidance on some of those other legs of the stool.
Yes.
That they haven't gotten so far as they've progressed up to this point. And now I know that there is a place where they can get that. I can I can say, hey, this is a priority. We need you to know about this stuff.
Yes.
Because we just live in a quickly changing world, and you need to have this background. Education's great, but it's, like you said, it's not all that's required anymore.
It's definitely not. So the final question. Let's pretend we're around a table. Right? We say circles are better than rows, and around this table with us are other board members. From your experience, in a very, kind of an elevator speech, what would you advise them on? What would your advice be for them as it relates to their own learning and professional development? What would you want to tell them?
I would say don't simply rely on whatever your local school board association is providing you. Don't think that that's going to be sufficient, because it's not anymore, because it is just how not to break the law. If we are focused on improving student outcome, which we need to be, then we have to look elsewhere, and that there are other places to look. I'm finding out about, I got online last night, and Amanda told me about a website to go to look for help for high conflict. There are resources, there are books. You've led me to read a couple of books already that have really opened my mind. Don't just restrict yourself to whatever the 2 conferences are a year or whatever that you're getting from your local school boards association, because that's not going to be sufficient for the time that we live in.
Well, I really appreciate this. And one thing we have to make clear too is our associations, state by state,
right,
from a superintendent association, sometimes associations for leaders and teachers and board members, the dilemma that they have is, capacity. Right. There's always a capacity issue, and their role and responsibility is often too the advocacy piece at the state level, which doesn't necessarily create the platform needed for, intensive, focused learning from a leadership perspective. Right. And so it's kind of like, how do you create value adds?
Yeah.
Right. And so in fact, what we're doing in the leadership circle, I don't really feel like it's taking the place of.
It's adding to.
It's adding to.
It's adding
right?
to. It's just,
I would never want that.
Yeah, the other just isn't sufficient. And the learning environment is so much better when you're in a circle. I totally agree with it. Where you can ask questions, where you can interact, where you're engaged. You're going to take it home, and it's going to stay with you because you learned in a different way.
I think you're serving as an incredible model for your community. And I want to thank you for being here, and for not just being here as a learner, but a contributor, because that's kind of what we expect.
Yeah.
That if you're going to come, you have to be willing to give help and get it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Be well.
Thank you.
Back from Cynthia, but before I jump into our next guest, I'm going to kick this over to our producer, Chris, who has some words for us. Chris?
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Richard, and I'm the producer of the Leader Chat with Jeff Rose podcast, brought to you by Cognia. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you follow or subscribe to us if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, or Podbean, to make sure you're getting all the latest updates on the newest episodes. You can also check out our video episodes under our Cognia YouTube channel. Please make sure you check those out and leave us a like or a comment and let us know how we're doing. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Chris. And our last participant of this week's Leader Chat, we are going to hear from Melanie Nelson. Melanie is a new superintendent from Forest Municipal School District in Mississippi. And what you will see and hear is that Melanie is, being new, she is extremely passionate, she is bold, and she's a superintendent who also attended this summit with her board chair, who is deeply committed, has been a long-term board member, and just very devoted to their community. And Melanie will talk about a number of things, but very specifically, what I found very intriguing was her focus on decision-making, going through a clear process so that decisions that are made at the leadership level benefit the community at large. Enjoy. Melanie, how cool is it that we have with us, leaders from across the country, and many of them with their board members, here talking about a pretty relevant topic, controversy, right? Navigating conflict and turbulence. We're going to get into that in a minute, but I'm not going to read your bio for this show. You're going to walk us through your arc, right? So you have a career narrative, right? You didn't just, you weren't born a superintendent. So walk us through, what we need to hear in order to know about you.
Well, started off as a classroom teacher and did that for several years. And I wanted to get my PhD because I wanted my family to call me doctor.
Is that right?
That is correct. And I wanted to have a snack by myself. I had 3 children, so I knew I had to go to class so that way I could eat my own snack.
Oh, these are very good, realistic reasons.
Very
I like
realistic.
it.
But it was important to me to continue to climb the ladder for women, for my family, for myself. Ultimately, the degree led to other opportunities. So I then became a curriculum specialist, assistant principal, and returned to one of my schools as principal. After the school closed, it was after Katrina, so the district went through some financial deficits. Moved to another school and stayed there for several years, had success making it in a school, ultimately moving on to the central office to be a federal programs director and director of elementary education. And then my opportunity came for the Pinnacle superintendent.
Got it. And it's been a year and a half.
A year and a half, and in my 32nd year in education.
And you're still smiling?
I'm loving every
You're a
minute
year
of
and a
it.
half into
I am
this gig and you're still
every
smiling.
minute of it.
Okay, so I have to ask you this because I've asked this before. I remember back to when my first superintendency, I had made some assumptions about what that job would be like. Because, of course, I worked for a superintendent, right? I was in the central office prior to becoming one. I personally found out there were certain things I was right about. And there were a lot of things I was wrong about. A lot of things that surprised me, blew me away, and I had to figure out ways to either sink or swim. It was interesting that, understanding this is not exactly what I assumed. Was that the case for you, or did you just happen to know everything going in?
I did not know everything going in, but that is not what I assumed. I had fantastic mentors that I still work with today. And I just believe that district and the opportunities to sit as a building level administrator and see what the central office side looked like really shaped and molded me. And then the biggest takeaway was truly building relationships. You are a figure in the community. Embrace that, but respect it in all aspects. And that has been one of the biggest advantages, that I do like people and I love children. So I've allowed myself to have those moments to get to know people, to find out their goals, and then to allow them into my world to see some of what I wanted to do.
Is you had a lot of leadership roles. The superintendency is not the only leadership role, right? Along the way, no matter what, controversy and turbulence is going to find you.
It is.
If you try to run from it, right, good luck.
Right.
Try to close that door, the door will get busted open. So over the years, through different positions, what have you learned about strategies to attack controversy? And how might that be affected by the kind of role and position that you have?
A former superintendent, we're still close today, he didn't jump all the time to make a decision. I really appreciated that. We live in a microwave society and we don't want an answer now. We want it right now.
Yeah.
But thinking it through, looking at all the angles, who it impacts, who are you trying to please? What is the outcome? But mainly, how will this affect students? How will it affect them emotionally, personally, just all those leads? How will they be impacted? Will they be better human beings? So, like you say, turbulence is going to come. But in addition to that, having healthy conversations with people, making sure that you hear their side, that it's not just your way or the highway. Because when problems are brought to you, it's for a reason. Maybe they just feel passionately about it. And when you start listening and learning to strategize together, children benefit. Children benefit. Don't shrug it off.
Yeah.
It might feel comfortable to do that, but it is not going away. So face it, research it. My current board president, I really credit him with researching matters before it comes up and it's explosive. And then we work together. So a lot of what I've learned and then continuing, it's been awesome.
And he's here with you today.
He is here with me today.
So I have had a chance to talk with him.
Yes.
And what is interesting, and he and I were talking about this, is let's just say he's local,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
he kind of knows people in the community.
Yes.
So huge benefits.
Yes.
Right? So you working and learning shoulder to shoulder with him, first off, I think it's very impressive. Well done.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
And what has it been like for the two of you to go through kind of, processes where you're working with other leaders? We say circles are better than rows, but learning from each other, how has that been? Because it's sometimes a bit different than the typical mode of PD that we experience.
So, and really and truly, the experience that I've had here in this platform with Cognia, it allowed my board president to see we're not in a silo. The issues that we face, other people face them, and sometimes on a larger scale. So he's been very appreciative of knowing it's not just us. It's not just me. We're doing good things in our community. We do have issues to face, but we're learning how to navigate the waters together, and strategies to help the other board members and the community members so that we can all benefit and move the district forward. That's ultimately why we're here. So I'm very appreciative that we've had this space.
Got it. Okay. So I interviewed, as you're talking, I was just thinking about this interview I had with Daniel Pink. And he had written this book. He's written this book, The Power of Regret. And, sometimes we see regret as a negative thing. His point is that, if you embrace things from the past and learn from them, right, there is power in having these very specific regrets. And so it's forced me to think through the incredible mistakes that I've made, but even the mistakes that I made that originally I didn't describe as a mistake, but I would do differently now. So you're in this position. You're in a year and a half into your what will be a long tenure. I just know it. And as you're focused on navigating turbulence and being willing to even run towards it, not from it, what would you not just tell a new leader, what would you tell yourself a year and a half ago? Right? So you're about to step in. I'm sure you were just thrilled and excited and just, chewing to bits to get started. But now that you've done it, what would advice be for yourself?
Thinking back, I went into every interview knowing that's my job. That one is mine. And then if I got a no, because no's come too.
Yeah.
I was angry for a little while. And then I had to realize maybe I had a little more to learn. And looking back, I don't regret the no's anymore because I learned so much from the leaders. And then I had to learn to sit behind someone, wait my turn. When you hear a no, because everybody likes a yes, but when you hear a no, do a true self-evaluation and really process what the lesson was. What did you miss? What can you sharpen and what can you fine-tune? Because I believe with every fiber in my soul that this job was lined up for me to have. It was no one else's job, but I had to be prepared for it. I had to know that maybe the person who was under me also applied and heard that no. So how do I treat them? How do I get the message across that this is what is important, that we still have to be in a relationship, on a team, moving that football across the line together. And it has just been a beautiful experience. It is late in my career, but that does not matter. Keep that drive for doing what is best for children and their parents. Don't leave them out of the equation. Has every day been sunshine and Skittles? No. But if you're given a fresh start and you've made a mistake, get it right the next day. That would be
your advice.
That would be my advice.
So as you know and you've learned, we say circles are better than rows.
Yes.
We believe in the power of collaboration. So if you and I were to pretend, and this is our traditional final question.
Okay.
So if you and I were to pretend around the table with us, our educational leaders, principals up through soups, right? It's a very large table. You have the microphone, what you do. What would be your elevator speech advice to leaders in terms of leading during what will be continuing controversy? What would be your advice? And literally 30 seconds or less. What would you say to them? Ready, go.
You have feelings, but make your decision with data that you cannot dispute. It will not lead you down the wrong path. And when you use the data, you can say, I'm surprised that it turned out this way. I don't feel this way, but this is what it's showing me. So as an educator, I have to take a look at it. Don't be afraid to tell them how you feel, but let the numbers lead you. They won't lie unless you manipulate them, and then have an honest conversation with the people around you to do what is best for children.
Okay, you're hired. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay, so I want to say thank you for, of course, just being part of this process, because as one, you're a contributor, and I want you to know that we are so appreciative when we see leaders willing to get and give help.
Yes.
And so thank you for that. Thank you for this, and continue to do the noble work you do.
This has been an amazing experience. I can't even tell you. I didn't know what to expect coming in, but you have some secret sauce here. I'm so glad I became a part of Cognia.
Nice of you to say.
Hey. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we've had the opportunity to listen to 3 stellar and very committed leaders. Leaders committed, of course, to doing the right work, but maybe even more importantly, committed to learning. We were so thrilled when we interviewed them. What we realized is that while they may not have a current book published, we thought this advice is so pragmatic and real, others simply need to hear it. We talked with 2 superintendents and 1 board chair from 3 different states. And what you'll hear is this incredible similarity as it relates to the ownership of their responsibility, especially during very turbulent and sometimes even controversial times. So, of course, I want to remind our listeners and our watchers to, of course, do those 2 things, to follow and subscribe in our podcast. We are on all major podcast platforms. Our videos are located, and they're newly located on YouTube. So feel free to reach out and watch those. We love your feedback. Ladies and gentlemen, educators, leaders, thank you for the noble work that you do. Be well.